You gotta unmute. There you go.
Hello,
Hello,
Wisdom
hello.
Plus family. All right, Hall, you can help out Suzette. I need to go shoot some stuff with Hunter. So, questions. Drop your questions for Mama Suzette in the chat.
Or Holly, if you want,
Before
like,
you leave, Pedro, I just really
Mm.
have to share this one from David. It's not a question, just a statement. It says, listening to Suzette really enhances my impression of Pedro. This is, this may be my favorite comment.
That's a compliment, right? I guess.
It is a compliment because and maybe it's just so funny because I feel the same way.
I've been getting so many of these
I did.
compliments lately that I'm like, is that a compliment? I did a call yesterday with our mastermind, like these people that are like th very close to us, and and they're like, Pedro, this challenge has been amazing. It's it's just it's just so different than all the other ones. It's so great. I'm like, thanks,
Is that a
I
compliment? We don't
guess.
know.
I didn't know I sucked like all this time, you know what I mean? So I didn't know it was that bad the last 5 years, but anyhow, love you guys.
hey, okay,
What?
before you leave, can you open the door for me? I'm like burning up in here. And then this
Uh,
light what is up with this light? It's
well,
like,
it's very dark without that light.
I know, but kind of push it back over there. All right. All right. Um, yeah, man. Whoo. These lights with it's very hot. And when you're a menopausal woman going through menopause, like let's not talk about hot flashes. We could talk about here for an hour about hot flashes. Okay, perfect.
Oh, you do this?
No, that's Holly. Holly sent me those
All right.
pictures.
Holly, if you want to, maybe easier to text Suzette the questions.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, I can text her. Yeah.
That might be easier.
okay.
What are you doing?
I need to
Wait, the
my
last
charging died.
pictures I text you
Are
were
the feet
Okay.
the foot. Did
the
you get
bath?
it? Did you do it?
No, we
No, we
haven't.
haven't it's the detox
So
water foot thing,
basically, you
yeah.
need me to come down and do it for
And
you.
do it for us, yeah.
That's what I hear you
Okay.
say.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Is
Set
it?
it up for
This is
us.
the chat. I don't see it moving.
You have to
What is happening
you
with
have to
it?
push down right
All
there.
right. Okay, so you know how to do this.
I know.
All right.
This is also a great compliment of the two of you. You guys are amazing. Your transparency is much appreciated.
Um,
In a world where real is
what
not
well
present, you
that
guys
and let
bring
me
it.
tell you something. That what I don't understand because I see people we've unfortunately there's a couple of people that live around us that live on social media. Like their whole life is reality TV. And I see how much work not being real is. That looks exhausting. Exhausting. Like portraying someone that you're not, that is hard work. Like I see these people, I see their daily lives and how they really live their life every day by just being a spectator of being a neighbor. And then I see when the camera goes on and I'm like, how? Like, how is that even like fun? How is that fun, fulfilling? Like it's not. It's not. It's a joke. So
Yeah, I agree. It is so
yeah,
much more work to
is so much work not
pretend.
it is so
It's
much work to pretend. And then this is one, I mean, I honestly today I put a little bit of effort into coming on to the camera. I put a little bit of makeup on, I put red lipstick on, I put my bright glasses on, which is kind of fun. I wanted to tell Pedro, when we started this 6 years ago, the Wisdom Challenge, when we go back and look at the videos, we didn't have glasses. Now we have to have glasses. It's yeah. That kind of tells you the progression of
but
what's happening here.
wouldn't
Yeah.
you say, Suzette, that there's a time and a place for having wisdom of when to present yourself in a certain
Yeah.
manner
Yeah.
versus like, oh, I'm just drinking my coffee, hanging out. I'm
Yeah.
okay if someone were to come over. I'm not trying to hide anything. Could you
No.
maybe talk about that a little bit of when you know, like, it's
Yeah.
wisdom to prepare, to
Yeah.
present in a certain way?
Yeah.
And then I'll look for some more questions for you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, so being authentic is honestly like it's huge for me because I struggled with that when we started 100X, when we were more present in the social media aspect of it, when we were doing ads, when we were talking to thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, when I was getting on stage, addressing people. Like, I struggled because there were so many years that in the church and I mean, or even in the business world, when we would go to conferences of like gurus, and this is when this is before like us being all sold out for the kingdom, like all in for the kingdom. I would always see these. I'm going to talk more about the women, of course, and this also is for the men, but mostly for the women. There is such a pressure about what you should look like, how you talk, what you wear. And I would see this happening in the spaces of like church. I would see this in the spaces of, all of these fancy business conferences where like I would see these wives and they looked perfect. They had the perfect body. They had the perfect clothes. They had the hair and makeup. They had this smile that was on. And like, and this could have been naive. I was like, oh my gosh, like, does this mean that if you are a king, like Pedro says, of an area, right? If you're a king of like, to be able to run a certain business conference or a church, and now you're portrayed as the man of the house, and there's the first lady. Like, now I'm not talking about we should be like going places looking like a slob. No, but I started like thinking, man, like, do I have to look or act a certain way to be able um to lead, honestly, to lead? Because I was seeing so many of these leaders, and it was like I was putting my pressure on me. We're like, oh, I have to look that way. I need to be 100 pounds. I need to buy those clothes, or I have to have a smile on my face. I can never complain about anything. I cannot be transparent that I have bad days or sad days, or am I having a rough time, or my marriage is not perfect this week. Because that's what I was seeing. I was seeing like all this perfectness. And it's like, I had to give my permission, like, no, 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 no. I need to be transparent and who I am as a whole package, as a whole package. And I use wisdom as if I'm meeting someone at the first time, of course, I want to put my best foot out there, right? I'm not going to show up in a robe with my hair in a ponytail when I'm meeting someone for this first time. But today, this is kind of funny because I hope he didn't feel awkward about this, but like today we have our camera guy here, Hunter, and this morning was early. He showed up. I opened the door with my slippers and with my robe, with my hair in a high ponytail, because I felt comfortable. Started a relationship with him. So do you know what I mean? So it's like there's wisdom of where to go and do. But also like when we have our group, we have our Facebook group of 100X Academy. And or 100X movement, sorry. And when I go into that group, I feel like they are my instant family. So there are times where they get me with my hair done, with lipstick on, with my pretty glasses on. And there's some times that they get me with my hair up in a messy bun, and they get me with a cup of coffee early in the morning. Oh, he's right here. I was talking about showing up in your robe and showing up glammed. He just showed up in the room. So there is wisdom in that, but you don't have to always feel like you have to show up in a way that you don't feel comfortable. If you do not feel comfortable because you feel like, oh, at the end of the day, I was smiling all day and man, I felt terrible. Or you know what? I had pants on that was 3 sizes too small. or I should have said that instead of that. Or you're constantly judging what you're saying and what you're doing. You're not being authentically you and showing up. So there is wisdom of where you show up and how you show up. But when it comes to continually to show up, be authentically you, right? Like, be comfortable of who you are. Now, if there's things that God is showing you that pulling you out, like he's wanting to work on you a little bit more because maybe you are too relaxed and maybe you are too lazy on maybe your self-care. And if the Lord is showing you that and he's pulling that out of you, that's incredible. Then go do that, be that, right? And I really think that's the most important thing about being authentic, because when we say there's favor on your face, it's typically because when there is favor on your face, is that favor is showing up because people are noticing the authentic you. They are noticing that there's something different about you. And that different is authenticity. Period. It's not because you do your makeup beautiful and oh my goodness, you have the best little tiny nose or whatever it is. That's not what I'm talking about. Favor. It's not because of this beauty. It's because they're seeing you and they're like, wow, she's being real. I could relate to her. Like, she's not putting on a show for anyone. So yeah, I hope that I kind of did a Pedro there. I kind of like, sometimes I'm like, Pedro, answer the question and go to the next one. You take too long of answering a question. So I just did a Pedro.
Well, I love it because you hit a couple of the other questions that people were asking in regards to all of that. So in
Yeah.
this same subject, and then we'll
Yeah.
switch gears completely.
Yeah.
Tammy says she's about to do her first challenge and she's going to be doing one per month in 2025.
Okay, awesome.
And she's already feeling super anxious about it. Do you have any tips or tricks of how to be natural in front of the camera like you seem to be?
Oh, absolutely. Where do you feel most comfortable in, like, in your home or in your car? Like for me, when Pedro started asking me to go live, and I was so scared, public speaking, because I went through school and school was such a hard thing for me. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, I graduated in 92. There was really no special ed. So like my education, because I struggled. I'm dyslexic. I struggled with words, reading especially, It's so funny. I could spell something easier than I could read it, I think it's because of seeing the letters and they jump everywhere. And it was such a struggle for me. And I went through speech therapy for 12 years. No, up until I was 12, sorry, up until I was 12 years old. So I think I probably started like 4 or 5 years old. So I always had this thing was like, I wasn't smart. I had nothing to say, or I couldn't correctly say it, or I jumble my words. Like, so I put that on me. And so when Pedro's like, go live, start being on camera, put yourself out there. People want to hear from you. I was like, oh no, I don't want any of that. You're the person they want to see. I'll just be in the background cheering you on, cooking for them. If they come over, like, I'll be the hospitality, I'll fix up the table, but I don't want to be on the camera. But he kept on pushing me. And I figured out I was really comfortable in my car because my car was a place of serenity for me. It was a quiet place for me. It was actually my prayer closet. So I suggest to find somewhere that you feel comfortable in. You don't have to have a fancy setup. You don't need to feel like you have right now. I feel kind of uncomfortable because I have a camera and I'm trying to look at a camera instead of looking at your guys. If I look down, I want to see your guys' faces. So I'm looking down in the camera, but Pedro's like, look at the camera here. So that takes a little bit. That takes a little bit of focus. But I would say is get somewhere comfortable to be able and practice before you go on your challenges. Go live every day in your public page. Make videos, literally put on the video and make videos of yourself. Start feeling comfortable of seeing yourself on camera. Start feeling comfortable in a place before you turn on that camera and you address the people on your challenge or you address whoever your audience is. Start to feel comfortable with the camera in front of your face. Because I know for me, that was a stretch for me and it took a while. But after I'm like, I, I'm ready. Put me in, coach. Like I'm ready to go on the camera. I'm ready to go on stage. And I never in a million years, like 8 years ago, I would have bet a lot of money that I would have never would have been speaking to tens of thousands of people. Never. And because I'm comfortable in having a camera in front of my face, having people watch me, having people judge me. Yes, I said it. You're going to have people that are going to judge you. There's going to be people that don't like what you say. There's going to be people that don't like your style. People that don't like the interaction between me and my husband. They're going to have their opinions and they're very vocal on their opinions. I'm very surprised sometimes how vocal people are. We are in a public space. When you put yourself in a public space, you give people the authority, give me the authority and maybe a thing. You will give people a space to comment those things that they like and dislike about you. And that took me a while to go, I don't care. I know what my calling is. I know what my calling is. I know what my purpose is. I know what God has called me to do. And not one comment, not one hate comment, dislike comment is going to stop me from my assignment. So I hope that helped.
Perfect. I love it. All right, maybe let's switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
One of the questions that came in, I feel like is always a good topic. How did you personally traverse the years after the loss before Pedro got off the couch? What was that like for you?
Ooh, hard. Let's just say that, right? That's the first word that came to my hard. There was times that I literally wanted to throw in the towel. I did have one conversation with him. I remember we had a vacation home that we had just bought, our first home outside of our primary home. And it was going to be a home that we saw ourselves having our grandchildren come to for retirement. And I remember we were about to lose that home. And we were at that house for one of the last times. And Pedro was just devastated. And I remember walking down the street with him saying, we need to get through this. You need to jump out of this because I don't think I could take this any longer. I literally had that conversation. And I say that first is because we would be lying to ourselves by going through a 3-year season with my husband being depressed, suicidal, thinking he was worthless, not bringing any income, things crumbling, losing homes, losing cars, not being able to pay for my kids' private school education, shopping at my house, my mom's house for grocerying, having my mother-in-law literally giving us money so we could pay our car payment, like all this stuff. I'm not going to sit here telling you that like I never wanted to throw in the towel. And because I did, but I always had the Lord. The one time the Lord told me in the beginning, when I was just so broken when everything was happening, he literally told me one thing. He whispered one thing: don't give up. And I thought that was so strange. And I could tell you exactly where I was looking out the window, seeing my husband walk, because he used to, oh my goodness, he would leave the house for hours and walk, and got to the point where I started being really concerned for his well-being. I would have to jump in the car and go find him because I was concerned that he did something to himself. And I remember looking out the window, and he told me, "Don't give up." And that was really hard for me because I'm like, Lord, like, what does that mean? Don't give up. What am I supposed to do? Tell me more. He literally just told me those words, don't give up. But it was enough for me to keep on pressing through. And I had to realize that I had to be there for my husband. I needed to be his watch person. I needed to be that person that he could come to and cry. I needed to be that person that I wasn't barking at him all the time. Why are you not getting up and doing something? Why are you on the sofa? Why are you taking walks for 3 hours? Why are you in your Bible for 6 hours a day? Like, I realized I couldn't be that person because that would have broken him. If I'm so broken and put my brokenness upon him, there wouldn't have been Pedro Deo. There wouldn't have been. And I realized that. So for 3 years, I held his hand and I told him, I didn't care where we went. We had a motorhome. And they were trying to come for the motorhome. We parked the motorhome at my mom's house, because that was going to be our plan B or plan C or D or whatever. We were planning on getting the motorhome, putting our kids in a motorhome, and go rent a spot in a mobile home park. And we started. Now, mind you, I lived in a custom home in a very nice neighborhood with very nice luxuries up until this point. And I told him, I don't care if we lived in a mobile home park. I don't care if we had to live in a motorhome, going places to places. And honestly, at that time, was going to places and places because, and this is bad, but I'm telling you, the struggle was real because we couldn't afford the payments on the motorhome, but we needed a place to live. I know we could have gone to my mom's house or my in-laws' house. I know we could have gone there. But like, the point was, I was okay if we were still a family, that we still had each other and we were healthy and we had our kids. It didn't matter what was in our bank account. It didn't matter how many bedrooms in my house had. It didn't matter if I had a pool. It didn't matter if I had the luxuries of a SUV. Like, if we were just together, I would live in a shack. I would be homeless with this man. That's why I did it. It was not hard. I wanted to quit, but I had to be his soundboard. I needed to be his comforter, even though, yes, his heavenly father was his comforter, but I needed to be his earthly comforter. I needed to be that person for him at that time. And those words that God told me, don't give up, because so much in this world is so much easier just to give up on that friendship, to give up on that job, to give up, because we think that the grass is always greener at the other side. Well, temporarily it could look greener. Temporarily it could look greener. So, um, so yeah. So sometimes for a season, for a season, for a season, how long that season is, I don't know. I didn't think my season was going to be 3 years, honestly. But for a season, I stuck with him because this was financial. I'm talking finances, right? There's a lot of things that marriages go through. I don't think you should ever be in a physical abusive marriage. I don't care if it's a 2-day season, a 3-day season, a verbal. Now, could people change? Absolutely. Jesus could come and change someone in an instant. Right? But I'm talking about money. Money should never be a reason because you feel uncomfortable in your living situations because you don't have the things that you used to have or you want. The material things should never come between a covenant marriage, a God-given, purposeful marriage should never, never be. So, okay.
Wow. Gosh, I love this so much.
It should
I
be thick and thin and coins to paper. Like thick and thin, right? $1, $1,000,000. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Just throwing this out there. Rosemary says, Suzette, your book would and will impact many women. I hope
Thank
that it's
you.
in the works, please.
So yes, it's definitely, I definitely have 12 chapters already laid out. And my book is going to be very different than a normal book. Everybody's been waiting for my recipes. For those of you don't know, I love to cook. I almost opened a restaurant. I love to personally go on live, my personal page, and cook and like do a little cooking show. I haven't done one in a long time. Um, at our conferences, the beginning of our conferences, we did 3 conferences at our local church. And for 300 people, 500 people, and 700 people, I cooked for everyone. Not just 1 meal, not just 2 meals, sometimes 3 meals. I cooked for 300 people, 500 people, 700 people. So I have a gift to cook for a group, large groups of people. I didn't cook by myself, I had a team. But that was something that I love to do because that was a part of my gifting, hospitality, and actually feeding people like good food. And when you came into my home, I always want to feed you good food. So even when you come into my conferences, I want to feed you good food. So there was a time I was able to, because I was at a church, I was able to be able to host that. It's a little different now at hotels. They won't allow me to go in their kitchens. Why? I don't know. They should allow me to go into their kitchens. I would have so much fun in those kitchens. Oh my goodness, those big kitchens. But what thing I do for conferences, if you come to my conference, I always have a hospitality gift personally that I do for everyone. And it's usually a cooking utensil, like a spoon, a spatula, tongs, and it has one of my recipes, one of my favorite of Pedro's or my kids or something that I made. And so I handwrite with help, of course, write out my recipe with a picture, and everybody at conference gets one of those. So that's just something that, so my book is around that. And yes, it's in the works. The Lord told me to have it done by next fall conference. So look out for that. So that's exciting.
I love that. I
Yeah.
can't wait for that to happen. It's
Yeah.
gonna be amazing.
Yes.
Well, I don't know how much longer you want to go. I know that we're like half hour, kind of like past our end time. So you tell me how many more you want to answer.
I could do until 10 o'clock. I could do another
Okay,
10
so
minutes.
maybe
Is
like
that okay?
one more question.
Okay. Or it could be 2 questions and I could make them 5 minutes each.
Okay, perfect.
Let's do that.
Okay, so one of the questions that kept coming up was the amount of love that you have for Pedro to hear the voice of the Lord and know and operate in that way. Like, what stirred up your love for him in that season and continues to stir up your love for him?
Well, I think it goes, okay, so we were friends. We were friends. I mean, we've known, our parents don't even have, the backstory is that we are both Portuguese. Our parents went to each other's weddings. We were in a Portuguese youth group that we learned the language, learned the dances. We lived about an hour away from each other, but we would always see each other during the summer. When he went to college, I went to a college party with my brother and some friends to meet up with him and his friends. And that day I found out that he had a crush on me, which I thought was strange because we've been friends for so many years. And there was never any love interest on my side. So it was kind of weird to find out that so he pursued me for a while. And one day he went to Portugal and I was at a dance. And I always picked Pedro as my dance partner because he is an amazing dancer. And so I always wanted him as my dance partner because I always wanted the best dance partner. And he was gone for a summer, and I was at a dance, at a Portuguese dance, which there's a lot of those in California, and at Portuguese clubs. And I noticed I was missing him, and not just because I was missing a dance partner because I wanted to dance. I was truly missing him as a person. And I was like, whoa, what is happening here? And right before he left, he had confessed his love. And I was like, no, we're just friends. There will never be anything between us, you know. And so I was realizing like, okay, this is my person. Like, you know. And so that's where like that love started because just like he was like the best dancer, there were so many other things that I wasn't noticing that he was the best of. And one of the things is that he loved people. Everywhere we went, he loved people. He was a natural gatherer, and I loved that about him because he was an extrovert and I was an extrovert, and I was just attracted to that. And then over the years, like I learned that um I had made it a commitment in front of God that like this was my person, and that I truly like, even though like we've gone through some really hard times over our years, that like the love I have for him are not in the things, are not in the mistakes, if that makes sense. People make mistakes, but doesn't mean that that disqualifies them for you not loving them anymore. And so I just made that commitment to my husband. And so one of the things was this love for people. That was something that really attracted me to him, and his passion. Like, oh my gosh, like when he got something in his mind, it was like, let's go, run. And I'm like, okay, let's go. I was always willing to like, we're going to the left, let's go to the left. We're going to the right, we're going to the right. And so that was just something that I really, really loved about that. And I love the adventure that we're on. And so that has really, I think that that whole love thing has kept me engaged in all the things, because marriage is not hard. And yes, marriage is a decision you have to choose through every single season. And for me, I had to consciously make that decision, you know, okay, I don't have to like him right now. And there's times where he doesn't have to like me right now. But it was a decision that I want to do life with this man through thick and thin, through living in a motorhome and living in a mansion, whatever it is. I don't live in a mansion, but whatever. I'm just telling you, like, it, it's a constant decision. So I hope did that help?
Yeah, so good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's see. Maybe this could be, we got 4 minutes.
Okay.
What is the most recent test that you felt that you have passed?
This is so funny because it's almost, I'm going to almost contradict myself when I say it doesn't matter where we live. Remember I said it doesn't matter if we live in a motorhome or a mansion? Um, Pedro wants to sell my home. Let's just say that. Um, this home that we bought when we came down in Southern California 4 years ago. And I love this home. It speaks to me everything. The hospitality, the style, the yard. Like I've never been in a home, and now we moved a lot. That's another thing. Woo! We moved a lot, and that was another test of our marriage too, of always moving. But I've never been in a home that I felt like, oh my goodness, like I could live here for the rest of my life. Like everything works for me, the comfort, the functionality of it. And now Pedro wants to sell it. Like that put a lot of strain on our marriage. And it was not because he just wants to sell it. He kind of went about it the wrong way. I'm going to tell on him. I'm going to throw him under the bus. um, and he was very strong about it. He kind of wanted to hey, I'm going to be, you know, the final say on this. And I was like, no, you're not. And he's like, yes, I am. And so that was honestly my recent test, I think. And I had the Lord, and there's sometimes that like a sale of the house, buying, selling, moving, it's the Lord, right? And there's been times in my life that I know it's the Lord saying, sell that, go there. Move from your city, go to another city, right? It's the Lord. But I didn't feel like this was the Lord. I felt like this was just Pedro and his preferences. And I really felt like it was his preference that was bumping into my preferences. And this was not the Lord. And I felt like it was a test of like our marriage, really, you know? And there was a couple of months that it was really, really, really rough. And we were not seeing eye to eye. And there was days I did not like him at all. And there was days that he told me, like, he told me, man, I have never ever felt a day that I did not like you. But today is the first day I feel like I don't like you. And he had never told me that before. And that crushed me. I say it all the time, but he has never told me that. And that crushed me. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't like me? You always like me. And like that was a huge test for me. And it goes back to, well, does it really matter where you live? You guys are together. Of course, I have preferences of where I live. And so I felt like it was a test of like, well, what's more important? The house that you love or your husband? And so we've came into common ground on it somewhat. There's still a little bit of a little bit of stuff, but I really felt that that was a test of, because it was something that I fought for, or it was something that like I didn't care at one time, and I found myself in this season caring about where I lived. I cared about where, and so God, even though I felt like God was not really in the center of the selling of this house, but God was always in the process of teaching me and stretching me in the process of whatever it is. So that is the past test. I guess I felt like I'm I don't know if I fully, to be honest and transparent, I don't know if I have fully passed it, but I feel like I am passing it. Like the course is not done. The semester is not yet done. And I feel like, you know, when you have bonus when like you're failing a little bit and your professor is like, hey, you know, you want a better grade? I'm going to give you like 2 extra assignments. And if you get good grades on this assignment, then I'll pass you. I think that's where I'm at right now, to be transparent. Yeah. So
I love that. Oh,
Yeah.
so good. Suzette, you are amazing. Thank you so much for
Thanks, Holly.
just sharing with us. Guys, give it up for Suzette in the chat. Love on her.
Love you guys.
Appreciate you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you for hanging in with me by myself.
Yeah,
I
you did
appreciate
great.
that.
I
Oh, he
love
came
it.
back. He
Oh,
came
he
back.
came
Wanna
back.
say,
Well,
just say bye. Just say bye real quick.
just say bye.
Bye, everybody. Love you guys. Have a great rest of your day. For many of you that requested an appointment with Fortress, we are having a call right now. So that's
Awesome.
why I'm like,
That's your like, wrap
that's
it
why I'm
up.
like, wrap it up.
Okay.
Love you guys.
Love
See
you guys.
on that
Thank you
call.
for hanging with me. Have a great weekend.